Imagine a single day that would forever change the course of Western civilization. A day when the proud city-states of Greece, champions of democracy and philosophy, would face their final stand against the rising power of Macedonia. It's August 2nd, 338 BC, and on the plains near the small town of Chaeronea in Boeotia, two worlds are about to collide. For decades, the Greek city-states, Athens, Thebes, Sparta, and their allies, had dominated the Mediterranean world through their military prowess, cultural achievements, and fierce independence. But now they faced Philip II of Macedon, a brilliant military strategist who had spent years modernizing his army and uniting the fractured tribes of Macedonia into a formidable fighting force. Philip wasn't just another barbarian king from the north. He was a visionary who had studied Greek military tactics, improved upon them, and created the most advanced army of his time, complete with the revolutionary Macedonian Phalanx, armed with 18-foot sarissas, or long spears, that could outreach any traditional Greek weapon. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Greek freedom versus Macedonian expansion. The old world versus the new, democracy versus monarchy. Leading the Greek coalition were some of the most respected names in Hellenic history. The Athenian statesman Demosthenes, whose fiery speeches had rallied the city-states against Philip. The experienced Theban generals who commanded the legendary Sacred Band, an elite unit of 300 paired warriors bound by love and honor. And various Athenian strategoi who brought with them the naval power and wealth of the Athenian Empire. On the Macedonian side stood Philip II himself, a battle-scarred veteran who had lost an eye in previous campaigns but gained an empire, accompanied by his 18-year-old son Alexander, not yet the Great, but already showing the tactical brilliance that would one day conquer the known world, and his trusted general Parmenion, whose experience in cavalry warfare would prove crucial in the coming battle. The Greek alliance had managed to field approximately 35,000 men, an impressive force that included heavily armed hoplites with their bronze armor and long spears, Athenian cavalry, Theban infantry, and contingents from various allied city-states, each fighting for their homeland's independence. Philip's army numbered around 32,000, seemingly smaller, but far more unified in command structure and equipped with superior weapons technology, including the fearsome Companion Cavalry, an elite heavy cavalry unit that would become legendary under Alexander's later leadership. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the terrain itself seemed to favor different tactical approaches. The plains were wide enough for large-scale maneuvering, but broken by small streams and gentle hills that could provide defensive positions, while the proximity to Chaeronea meant that retreat routes were limited for both sides, making this truly a fight to the finish. The initial deployments revealed the strategic thinking of both commanders. Philip placed his experienced veterans on the right wing, while positioning young Alexander on the left with the Companion Cavalry, creating a formation that could both withstand the famous Greek phalanx and exploit any weaknesses in the enemy line. The Greeks, following traditional tactics, placed their strongest units, the Theban Sacred Band and elite hoplites, on their right wing, directly opposite Philip's position, while the Athenians and other allies extended the line toward the left, facing the young Macedonian prince, who many still saw as untested in major battle. The battle began with the traditional advance of both phalanxes, a terrifying sight as thousands of bronze-tipped spears lowered in unison, and tens of thousands of warriors marched forward with shields locked and war cries echoing across the plain. But Philip had prepared a masterstroke that would demonstrate why Macedonian tactics were superior to traditional Greek warfare. In a move that shocked the Greek commanders, Philip ordered his right wing to conduct a fighting withdrawal, pulling back slowly while maintaining formation, which drew the Greek left wing forward and began to stretch their battle line dangerously thin. This feigned retreat was perfectly timed with Alexander's devastating cavalry charge on the opposite flank, where the 18-year-old prince led his companions in a thunderous assault that shattered the Greek right wing and sent enemy warriors fleeing in panic. The Sacred Band of Thebes, however, refused to break. These elite warriors, trained from youth and bound by oaths stronger than death, held their ground even as the battle turned against them, fighting with desperate courage as Macedonian sarissas pierced their ranks and cavalry swept around their flanks. The moment that decided the battle came when Philip halted his withdrawal and launched a counterattack with fresh reserves, catching the pursuing Greeks off balance and exhausted from their advance, while simultaneously Alexander's cavalry completed their destruction of the Greek right wing and began rolling up the enemy line from behind. In the space of a few hours, the military might of classical Greece was broken forever. The Sacred Band fought to the last man, leaving their bodies piled in neat ranks where they had made their final stand, while thousands of other Greek warriors lay dead or dying on the blood-soaked plain. The immediate aftermath was catastrophic for Greek independence. Over 2,000 Athenians died, along with most of the Sacred Band and countless allies, while Macedonian losses were relatively light, demonstrating the superiority of their new military system. Philip's victory was so complete that he could afford to be magnanimous. He returned Athenian prisoners without ransom and offered honorable terms to the defeated city-states. But make no mistake, this generosity came from a position of absolute strength, not weakness. The political consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Athens was forced to abandon its anti-Macedonian policies. Thebes was occupied by a Macedonian garrison, and the other Greek city-states quickly submitted to Philip's hegemony, effectively ending the classical period of Greek independence that had lasted for centuries. More significantly, Philip used his victory to establish the League of Corinth, a Macedonian-controlled alliance of Greek states that would serve as the foundation for his planned invasion of Persia, a campaign that his son Alexander would eventually complete with world-changing consequences. The Battle of Chaeronea marked not just the end of Greek political independence, but the beginning of the Hellenistic Age, when Greek culture would spread across 3 continents under Macedonian leadership, reaching from Spain to India and creating the cultural synthesis that would influence Roman civilization and ultimately shape the entire Western world. The tactical innovations demonstrated at Chaeronea, the combined use of flexible infantry formations, heavy cavalry, and coordinated battlefield maneuvers, would become the template for military excellence that Alexander would use to conquer an empire stretching from Egypt to India, making this single day's fighting one of the most consequential battles in human history. Today, visitors to the battlefield can still see the Lion of Chaeronea, a marble monument erected over the mass grave of the Sacred Band, a fitting tribute to warriors who chose death over surrender and whose sacrifice marked the end of one era and the violent birth of another, reminding us that some battles determine not just the fate of armies, but the entire course of civilization itself.